Here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have a special guest in the video. This is my husband Matt, and he has agreed to make an appearance in this video. I mean, he's made appearances in some of my previous videos, but this is his official introduction to my YouTube channel. So we're gonna be talking about how we met and fell in love and all of that stuff. So if you like that kind of thing, stick around.
All right, let's rattle off these questions.
Yeah, let's do this. How long have we been together? We have known each other. We met a little over 5 years ago. We got married 3.5 years ago, so like 2 years after we met. Speaking of which, how did we meet?
Yeah, so we were both little freshmen starting off school, looking for our first jobs to support ourselves through college.
Mm-hmm.
And we both ended up finding the same job on campus.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the first day I went in for training. Everybody was kind of going around the room introducing themselves, saying where they were from. And Hannah particularly drew my attention because she was from the same place as me, but I didn't know her.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that
We
was
actually went to rival high schools, so we'd never met until that point, but we're both from like the same town, so that was kind of interesting.
But yeah, then like that same day after we did some training and stuff, I started talking to her because I was like, oh, hey, you're from Provo, that's cool. And yeah, started there.
Yeah, one thing I remember about that day is, yeah, like during the lunch break, we started talking to each other. And because this was like my first college experience, I was trying to make an effort about like making new friends and like talking to people. And so I remember talking to Matt. I feel like we hit it off really well and just like talked a lot during that lunch break. And like afterwards, I just like felt so proud of myself. I was like, wow, I can actually talk to people. And the reason that's such a big deal is because in high school, I was a very shy person and like hardly ever talked to anybody except for my close friends. And so yeah, that was kind of like a big step for me, and I don't know, just something I remember about when we met. Okay, next question. What was your first impression of me?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of funny going along those lines. Like you said, you were really like shy and quiet in high school, because when we first started talking, I was like, oh wow, this girl's like really cool, like really talkative and like all that. I had no idea that you were like really putting in effort to talk. But I think my first impression, just knowing that you went to that rival high school, was like, oh, she's one of those types of people, you know?
I'm like, what is that type of person? Like, what did you imagine?
Well, okay, like, I think everybody in every little town has, like, that high school where all the, like, rich kids go and all the, like, really upper class, like, bougie people, and that's the high school she went to, so
I'm not like that, though. I did not
but
grow up.
I thought that, right, immediately when she told me where she went to high school, and I was kind of like, oh, yeah, she's probably way too cool for me. Like, I don't even know why she's even wasting her time talking to me. Like, my first impression was, one, oh, wow, she's really, like, talkative and nice, and two, like, but she's probably too cool for me. But obviously that's not the case at all.
No. And I would say, like, my first impression of you was just like, I thought you were cute, obviously. Not that that's the most important thing to look for, but I thought you were really cute. And then also just, I felt really comfortable talking to you. There are certain people that I can, like, be a little bit overwhelming talking to, especially for me as, like, an introvert and, like, kind of a shy person. Like, there are people who are just, like, very outgoing and a little bit too gregarious. But you weren't like that. You were, like a really nice amount of, like, friendly and talkative, but I felt very comfortable around you and very comfortable talking to you. So that was kind of, like, my first impression.
Oh, thanks, babe.
You're welcome. So then after that, obviously we started dating. He asked me out on a date a couple weeks later, and that went pretty well. And then obviously after that, he asked me on a second date. So what made you want to ask me on another date after the first?
Okay, well, before I even asked you on the first date, like, you used to, like, follow me to the library.
So not only did we work together, we actually happened to be in the same biology class.
Yeah.
And so after class, we both had like a break in between classes, and so he would go to the library to study, and I would just kind of follow him and like do my own homework once we got to the library.
And I think I took that as like my cue, like you should probably just ask her out. Like she seems to kind of be interested, but I don't know.
I was.
But yeah, so our first date, I asked her to like roast marshmallows and do s'mores up the canyon with one of my friends. So we went and did that, and I feel like that first date was awesome. Like we just were able to talk the whole time, never really ran out of things to talk about, and it just felt good. Like it just felt like a good friendship was starting to like form, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh wow, like I don't want to take things too quickly, but I think we should like hang out again, and yeah. I mean, just the first date went well, so I felt like it was good to ask again.
I think the reason I wanted to go on more dates with you and hang out with you more is kind of like going back to what I was saying before. Is just that like I like immediately when like upon meeting you, just like felt very comfortable in your presence, and I just really liked the feeling that I had when I was with you, and it just like felt like we had known each other for so long, which was like really weird because like we just barely met, but I just like felt right when we met that like you're one of my like oldest like closest friends, and so like from then on I was just like, oh, like I just want to like spend as much time with you as possible, just because like it just feels so right. That's why I wanted to keep hanging out with you and like going on dates with you. And so what are a couple of your favorite memories from when we were dating, like before we got married? Like,
oh man, there's so many. I mean, I think the first one that comes to mind was one that I was actually kind of annoyed about at first. But when you totally just ditched me to go all the way to Europe, the other side of the world. But I think it was a really good experience for both of us. I mean, we FaceTimed every night, and I think that was just something like unique to have like that long distance relationship while we were dating.
To be fair, you also went to Europe right when I got home, so...
Yeah, so, but like the long distance thing, I think that was something that was unique and definitely memorable as part of our relationship, because I feel like having a long distance relationship can either make or break a couple, you know, because it's definitely difficult, but it also was fun just talking and
and
share experiences.
Yeah, it definitely made our relationship stronger, I feel like, because it was hard and we had to kind of like push through that and like figure out like if we really wanted to like stay together.
What was your favorite memory? Or, like, what were some of your favorite memories?
I think there were just like small things that I like remember. Like a lot of times when we were dating, we didn't want to like go out and like eat a ton or like go to like tons of like things and like spend
Poor
all our
college
money.
students.
Yeah, like we were poor college students. Like we could have like just like throw
and
all
maybe
our money.
Maybe that's like a con of dating when you're young. You don't have any disposable income because you're paying tuition.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it like made for some like fun dates. Like there were lots of times where we would just like go to like Walmart and like pick up some random snack or treat.
Mostly lemonade, pita, and hummus.
Yeah, we loved like those like pita chip crackers that you get, and like getting like a little thing of hummus and a thing of lemonade, and we'd just like sit in the car, or like we'd go to a park and like sit on a bench in the park and just like eat our pita chips and hummus and just like talk. That's something that's like super random, but like I just love it because
we had
like,
some deep conversations over pita chips and hummus.
Seriously, and like I don't know, I just like look back at that and like I just like smile to myself because it's like so completely random. Like, you know, other people they'll go out to dinner, maybe go out to a movie, or like if they're being more thrifty, they'll just like stay at home and have like a movie night or like play board games or something. But like instead we're like, oh, let's go get some pita chips and hummus and then sit in the car and talk for 2 hours. And that's what we
sometimes
did.
we would be talking for a long time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Sometimes like we'd just like be sitting there talking until like midnight or like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like,
yeah. And I think that's how I like knew it was like it was a good relationship. Yeah, she's a keeper. You know?
So you mentioned that like those deep conversations are how you knew you wanted to keep going. Was there anything else that like made it click in your mind that like, yeah, I want this to go further, I want to like marry this girl?
I mean, I think like obviously everything was clicking as far as just our friendship was going. but also, I mean, we were really young. Like, when we first met, you were like 18, I was 20. We were little kids.
We're just kids, yeah.
But I feel like something that I liked about Hannah was that she was very mature for like an 18-year-old. She wasn't just like this obnoxious little freshman in school, you know. I was a little bit older because I had postponed my start date because I went and did like a missionary thing for a couple of years. So I was a little bit older and she was younger than me, but I don't know, there's just that maturity. I knew it could work out. I had the potential to work out. But then obviously just the relationship was strong. What about you?
I would say that like one of the biggest things is just that like throughout our dating and just like spending time with each other and getting to know each other, like you really became like my best friend, like the best friend I've ever had in my life. And like even from when I was like very little, and I would like watch all these like princess movies, and then as I got older I would watch like rom-coms and stuff. I always loved the stories where like the best friends ended up together. Just the fact that like, I'm not just saying this, but like you legitimately are like my best friend, and it happened since we were dating and stuff. And so it just like there's like that little part of me that like wanted it to be like my favorite rom-coms and favorite like love stories. So like, there's that, but also I think our personalities are just like very compatible, and I think that like we're both like very like calm, like we're generally very calm people, and I think that that's good for us. Yeah. And then there are like other things where I think we balance each other out very well personality wise. Like I'm very much an introvert, and if I could I would just like stay home in my bedroom all the time and like never leave. I'd be a hermit. But like he's more extroverted, and so like he gets me out and like exploring stuff, even if we aren't like doing anything like crazy, like even if it's just to like go walk around Main Street and see like Christmas lights or something like that. He keeps some balance in my life that way. And so like they're just like little things like that where I think like we just like balance each other out very well.
I think the nice thing too with our relationship is it's always felt like we can just be 100% who we are. No pretending to be somebody that's cooler, or I don't know, you know, there's just a lot of pressure when you're young, especially to just fit in and just to be cool to everybody around you, to impress people. Whenever I'm with Hannah, I don't feel like I need to be something else. I can just be who I am. And I think we both feel similarly about that.
I definitely feel that too. So on so many levels, it just like felt right to get married. So that's how we knew we wanted to get married. At that point, I was 19 and you were 21 when we got engaged. By the time we got married, I was 20 and you were
22.
So we were pretty young when we got married. And I feel like that's not very common these days. So lots of people wait until they get married, or they don't get married at all. That's all good if that's what you choose to do, but we got married very young. Do you think that getting married young is a good idea or not? Like, what do you think about that?
I think it depends. I think you have to have some self-awareness as a young person to know if that's something that you're ready for. I don't think that you ever feel 100% ready to get married.
It's a very big decision.
It's a big decision. I think it's up there with having kids or just different things like that. Like, it's a big commitment that you're making. So you don't want to rush into it. For us, it's been awesome. But I know for other people, they get married young and then they end up getting divorced a couple years later. But I think you really just have to know yourself and know what your goals are and what your life situation is. Especially if you're in college, you have to realize that you're not going to be able to make time for another person and also make time for all of your friends. You got to kind of pick and choose where you spend your time. You have to decide if you're ready for the level of commitment that it takes to build a relationship with another person. Because you're going to have to sacrifice some of your personal time. But really, I think it comes down to the individual and down to the individual relationship.
I think that's very true. And I think that a reason that it's worked out for us is that like we're both very mature, and I think that we both were thinking long term. It wasn't just like, oh, this seems like a good idea right now, let's do it. It's kind of like, okay, this is the rest of our lives. We need to like really think about that for what it is. Like,
and I mean, before we even got engaged, we were already talking about like finances and like, I mean, we had discussed getting engaged and to see if it would even be feasible. Like, can we afford to do it? You know, that's a big question. There's just lots of things you have to ask yourself.
So yeah, it worked out for us, and I'm glad that it did. But yeah, there are definitely lots of things that you need to think about. I would say number one, it's a big decision, and you have to really think like 20 years, 30 years in the future, like, are you still going to want to be with this person at that point? Matt brought up a good point that you do need to think about the financial situation. Like, can we afford our own apartment? Will we still be able to pay for tuition and like things like that?
And like we were lucky because the university we went to was very affordable.
Yes.
Some other students may be taking on thousands and thousands of dollars in loans, whereas we weren't.
Yeah.
So it definitely made it easier for us. Something else I'd also add, I think it's good that you have some sort of struggle in your relationship or some sort of thing. And I think Hannah and I had that like before she went on her study abroad in Europe, because there was a little bit of like tension in our relationship. Not that like I knew we were never going to end our relationship. Like it was too good to just end, but there was definitely a little bit of tension and some problem solving and discussions that had to take place. And I think everybody should go through that a little bit before they rush into marriage, because it helps you see how the other person handles a difficult situation and date them through all the seasons of the year.
In a year, so much happens, and you're bound to see some of those hard points.
I think most people would even consider marrying somebody that they've dated for less than a year.
But
like
around
where
here,
we're from, it's actually kind of
very different.
Yeah.
Like just the culture here in Utah, because like a lot of people are very religious here. People get married very young, and they get married very quickly after meeting each other. And like, although we grew up here and we grew up in this culture, both of us were kind of skeptical of that.
Yeah, I mean,
approach
I grew up
to marriage.
I mean, like, my parents got divorced when I was a kid, so I was like particularly hesitant towards just rushing into a relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we did it for a good amount of time.
And then, like, even after, like, we got engaged, we were engaged for almost a year before we got married. So, altogether, like, we were together for, like, 2 years before we got married. And I think that was really good for us to, like, really get to know each other in all different situations.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. What advice do you have for other couples? Like, what dating advice do you have?
I feel like we've packed in a lot of it already. The most important thing in a relationship is just being yourself. I think the worst thing that you can do is pretend to be somebody else and then have that person fall in love with that fake person that you've pretended to be.
Yeah.
Because then when you do want to be yourself, they're not going to like that person. It's so much more comfortable not having to pretend to be somebody.
What advice do you have for married couples?
Do the same stuff that you did while you were dating. I feel like maybe we're not perfect at that all the time, but I think it's good that we still go get lemonade, we still go get our pita chips and hummus and doing those kind of things, because it just brings back good memories. But I think also once you're married, just humbling yourself, being willing to take criticisms, because that's like the best part of marriage. You trust the other person so much that like it's okay if they correct you, because it's not gonna like destroy you, because you know that they're doing it because they love you and they want you to be better. I think it's just nice having somebody that can push you to be a better person.
I like that. That's one thing I think is good about getting married young, is because it's easier to kind of like grow together, because like you're still young and you're still figuring out who you are, and if you can figure out who you are and who you want to be with another person kind of helping you along the way, it's just really nice to have that support. I've heard of like older people who have gotten married when they're older. It can be kind of hard because
they're kind of
set in their ways, and they have their routines, and they have a certain way of living their life, and then they have to like
adapt to a new person.
Adapt to like this new way of life with this new person. Not that like you have to like adopt a whole different way of living, but you do have to kind of like combine your lifestyles, and it can be kind of harder when you're so attached to
Whereas I feel
your
like
way of life.
we didn't really have like a lifestyle before we were married.
Yeah, because we were
kind of
just kids.
Created that together.
That is one benefit of getting married young. You get used to kind of helping each other grow and become the best versions of yourselves that you can be. So yeah, I have a friend who's getting married this week, and I've been kind of thinking about like the advice that I got when we got married, and I feel like a lot of marriage advice is like very cliche and like generic. People mean well when they give you these bits of advice, but I think the generic advice you get is very generic, and like it doesn't work for every couple. And I think you really need to just like know your partner very well and be open and honest, and just like, if you're worried about something, like just like be open with them and like try to get to know them. I know that like when Matt and I first got married, there were definitely things that we had to like get to know about each other once we were living together, that like you only know about a person if you like live together or are married and stuff. And so just be patient with each other through those moments. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and
Like and subscribe. Comment if you have any questions below.
Yeah, if you have any questions for us, comment below and we'll try to answer them. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Yeah.